My dear friends, I want to begin tonight with a question that will determine the entire trajectory of your life. Who do you assume yourself to be? Not who you hope to become, not who you're working toward being, but who, in the depths of your consciousness, do you assume yourself to be right now, in this very moment? You see, most people believe they are victims of circumstance, prisoners of their past, or slaves to their conditions. But I tell you tonight with absolute certainty, you are none of these things. You are the operant power of your world, the author of your experience, the God of your reality. The principle I'm about to share with you is so simple that the intellectual mind often dismisses it, yet so profound that when properly understood and applied, it can transform your entire existence in ways that will seem miraculous to those who don't understand the law. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. A young man once approached me, desperate and defeated. He had lost his job, his girlfriend had left him, and he was facing eviction from his apartment. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Neville, I'm cursed. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm just unlucky." I stopped him right there. "My friend," I said, "you have just revealed to me the source of all your troubles. It's not that you're unlucky, it's that you assume you're unlucky. And assumption, my dear friend, is the foundation of all creation. You see, assumption is not mere wishful thinking or positive affirmation. Assumption is the acceptance of something as true, regardless of evidence to the contrary. It is the feeling of certainty that what you desire already exists in the invisible realm of consciousness, waiting to be made manifest in your physical world. Every state of consciousness has its own unique feeling tone, its own vibrational signature. When you assume the state of being wealthy, you naturally feel abundant, secure, and generous. When you assume the state of being loved, you feel cherished, appreciated, and valued. When you assume the state of being healthy, you feel vital, energetic, and whole. The secret, and this is crucial, is that you must feel the reality of your assumption before you see the evidence of it. Now let me tell you about that young man I mentioned. Instead of focusing on his problems, I taught him to focus on his assumption. I asked him, "What kind of person do you want to be?" "I want to be successful, confident, and prosperous," he replied. "Then that is what you must assume yourself to be right now, regardless of your current circumstances." For the next week, every morning upon waking, and every evening before sleep, he would close his eyes and feel himself to be the successful, confident, prosperous man he desired to be. He would imagine walking into his own office, signing important contracts, depositing large checks at the bank, but most importantly, he would feel the naturalness of being that person. And here's what happened. Within 10 days, a former colleague contacted him about a business opportunity. Within 3 weeks, he had his first client. Within 2 months, he had moved into a beautiful new apartment. Within 4 months, he was running his own consultancy and earning more money than he had ever made in his life. Was this luck? Was this coincidence? Absolutely not. This was the law of assumption in perfect operation. But let me be very clear about something that trips up many people. When I speak of feeling, I'm not talking about emotion or excitement. I'm talking about the deep inner conviction, the sense of naturalness that comes from truly accepting something as already accomplished. Think of it this way. How do you feel about your own name? You don't get excited about it. You don't hope it's really yours. You don't work to make it yours. You simply, naturally assume it to be yours. This is the kind of feeling you must have about your desired state. Here's another story that will demonstrate this perfectly. A woman came to me once, desperate to heal her relationship with her estranged son. They hadn't spoken in 5 years after a bitter argument. She had tried everything: letters, phone calls, reaching out through other family members. Nothing worked. I told her to stop trying to make it happen, and instead to assume it had already happened. Every night, she would imagine receiving a loving phone call from her son. She would hear his voice, full of warmth and affection. She would feel the joy of their reconciliation. She would assume the feeling of being a mother whose son adored her. She persisted in this assumption for 3 weeks. Then, on a Tuesday morning, her phone rang. It was her son calling to say he'd been thinking about her and wanted to rebuild their relationship. And here's the part that will really grab your attention. He told her he had been having dreams about her for weeks. Dreams where they were happy together, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to call her. You see, when you change your assumption about yourself, you change your entire world. Everyone and everything in your world must rearrange itself to conform to your new assumption. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Neville, how is this possible? How can my assumptions affect other people? Let me explain something that will revolutionize your understanding of reality. There is only one consciousness, and you are it. What you call other people are simply different aspects of your own consciousness being reflected back to you. When you assume that people love and respect you, you will find that people begin treating you with love and respect. When you assume that opportunities are always opening for you, you will find opportunities appearing everywhere. When you assume that you are healthy and vital, your body will begin to reflect that assumption. This is not theory. This is law. It operates with the same precision as the law of gravity. Assume something persistently, and it must manifest in your world. Let me share another fascinating example. A businessman once told me he wanted to double his income. I asked him, "What would you do if your income were already doubled?" He thought for a moment and said, "I would buy a new car, move to a better neighborhood, and take my family on a luxury vacation." "Then assume you've already done these things," I told him. "Feel yourself driving that new car. Feel yourself living in that better neighborhood. Feel yourself enjoying that luxury vacation with your family." He began to assume the feeling of having double his income. He would visualize making larger deposits at the bank, signing bigger contracts, living the lifestyle that such income would provide. But most importantly, he maintained the feeling of being a man who naturally earned that much money. And here's the remarkable part. Within 6 months, not only had his income doubled, but it had tripled. New clients seemed to appear out of nowhere. Investment opportunities presented themselves. Even unexpected windfalls came his way. But let me warn you about something that destroys the power of assumption for most people. It's inconsistency. You cannot assume wealth on Monday and poverty on Tuesday. You cannot assume health in the morning and illness in the evening. You cannot assume love when you feel good and rejection when you feel bad. Your assumption must be constant and unwavering. I once knew a woman who wanted to attract her ideal romantic partner. She would spend her mornings imagining herself in a beautiful, loving relationship. She would feel cherished, adored, and completely fulfilled. But then, during the day, whenever she saw happy couples, she would think, "That will never happen to me. I'm not attractive enough. All the good men are taken." Do you see what she was doing? She was giving with one hand and taking away with the other. She was assuming love in the morning and loneliness during the day. The result? Nothing changed in her life, because her assumptions were canceling each other out. But here's how she turned it around. And this technique will work for you too. I taught her the art of living from the end. Instead of thinking about her desire, she learned to think from her desire. Instead of hoping for love, she assumed she was already loved. Whenever she caught herself thinking thoughts of lack or loneliness, she would immediately redirect her attention to the feeling of being in her ideal relationship. She would ask herself, "How would I think if I were already loved? How would I behave if I were already in my perfect relationship?" Within 2 months, she met a man who embodied every quality she had been imagining. They're now happily married. Now, let me share with you the most revolutionary truth you'll ever hear. You are already the person you want to be. In the infinite realm of consciousness, every possible version of yourself already exists. There is a version of you that is wealthy, a version that is healthy, a version that is loved, a version that is successful. Your job is not to create these versions. They already exist. Your job is to assume the feeling of being them. Think of it like this. Imagine consciousness as a vast wardrobe filled with an infinite number of garments. Each garment represents a different state of being. Right now, you're wearing the garment of your current state. If you want to experience a different state, you simply need to change your garment, change your assumption. The wealthy version of you isn't something you need to become in the future. It exists right now, in this moment, in the realm of pure possibility. When you assume the feeling of being that wealthy person, you literally step into that version of yourself. Let me give you a powerful technique to do this. Close your eyes right now and imagine that you are already everything you want to be. Don't think about how you'll get there or when it will happen. Simply assume that you are already there. Feel the satisfaction of having achieved your goals. Feel the joy of being the person you've always wanted to be. Feel the peace that comes from knowing that all your desires are already fulfilled. This feeling, this is your prayer. This is your creative power. This is how you change your world. Now I know some of you are thinking, this sounds wonderful, Neville, but how do I apply this practically? How do I maintain this assumption when my circumstances seem to contradict it? Here's the secret. You must be willing to live by an inner conviction rather than by outer appearances. Your senses will tell you that nothing has changed. Your bank account will show the same numbers. Your mirror will reflect the same appearance. Your relationships will seem the same, but you must persist in your assumption, despite the evidence of your senses. Remember, your senses only show you the past, the results of your former assumptions. They cannot show you the future, the results of your new assumption. That's why it takes faith to live by assumption, rather than by sight. Let me share a technique that will help you maintain your assumption. Every time you encounter evidence that contradicts your desired state, instead of reacting to it, revise it. If you want to be wealthy but receive a bill you can't pay, don't accept that experience. In your imagination, revise the scene. See yourself easily paying the bill, even having money left over. Feel the satisfaction of financial abundance. If you want to be healthy but feel symptoms of illness, don't accept that experience. In your imagination, revise the scene. See yourself feeling vibrant and energetic. Feel the joy of perfect health. This isn't denial, this is revision. You're not pretending that unwanted circumstances don't exist. You're rewriting them in consciousness, which is the only place where change can originate. And now let me share with you the ultimate secret. The one that very few people understand. The person you assume yourself to be is not just who you become. It's who you've always been. Your true self is not limited by your past, your circumstances, or your conditions. Your true self is the unlimited, infinite consciousness that can assume any state, experience any reality, become any person. When you assume a new state, you're not becoming someone different. You're revealing who you truly are beneath all the false assumptions you've accepted about yourself. The person you want to be is not a stranger. It's your true self, that confident, successful, loved, healthy, prosperous person you dream of being. That's not someone you need to become. That's who you really are, underneath all the limiting beliefs and false assumptions. Now, let me walk you through the exact process of transformation. Step 1. Know what you want. Be specific. Don't say, I want to be successful. Say, I want to be a best-selling author, or I want to own a thriving business, or I want to be in perfect health. Step 2. Construct a scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. This should be a simple, natural scene that would happen if your desire were already a reality. Perhaps it's a friend congratulating you on your success, or you looking at your bank statement with satisfaction, or feeling the energy of perfect health. Step 3. Enter the scene in imagination. See it clearly, hear the sounds, feel the emotions, make it as vivid and real as possible. Step 4. Capture the feeling. This is the most important part. How would you feel if this scene were really happening right now? Capture that feeling of satisfaction, joy, relief, or gratitude. Step 5. Assume that feeling throughout your day. Whenever you think about your desire, return to that feeling. Live from the assumption that it has already happened. Step 6. Persist until it feels natural. Keep assuming this new state until it becomes your dominant assumption about yourself. Let me share a personal example. Years ago, I wanted to speak to larger audiences about these principles. At the time, I was speaking to small groups of perhaps 20 or 30 people, but I assumed the feeling of addressing thousands. I would imagine standing before a vast audience, feeling the energy of hundreds of people hanging on every word. I would hear the applause, feel the satisfaction of sharing these truths with so many people. Most importantly, I would assume the feeling of being someone who naturally spoke to large audiences. I persisted in this assumption for months. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, invitations began arriving. Radio stations wanted interviews. Larger venues offered speaking opportunities. Publishers became interested in my work. The result? I began speaking to audiences of hundreds, then thousands. But here's the key. It didn't feel like a miracle or a stroke of luck. It felt natural, because I had already been assuming it to be true. But what about doubt? What do you do when doubt creeps in? When your mind tells you this is impossible? When logic says your assumptions are just fantasies? Here's what you do. You remember that doubt is just another assumption. If you can assume limitation, you can assume possibility. If you can assume failure, you can assume success. If you can assume sickness, you can assume health. Doubt has no more power than belief. They're both just assumptions. The question is, which assumption serves you better? I once had a student who wanted to heal from a serious illness. The doctors had given him a poor prognosis, and everyone around him was preparing for the worst. But he chose to assume perfect health. Every time doubt arose, he would say to himself, I can assume sickness, or I can assume health. I choose health. He would return to the feeling of being completely well, vital, and energetic. His doctors called his recovery a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle, it was assumption. Here's something that will fascinate you. When you change your assumption about yourself, everything and everyone in your world changes to match that new assumption. It's like dropping a stone into a still pond. The ripples spread outward, affecting everything in their path. Your new assumption creates ripples that transform your entire reality. People will treat you differently without knowing why. Opportunities will appear that seemed impossible before. Circumstances will rearrange themselves to support your new assumption. This isn't manipulation, it's law. When you change your inner world, your outer world must change to match it. But how long does it take? This is the question everyone asks. The answer is, it takes as long as it takes for your assumption to feel natural to you. Some assumptions feel natural immediately. Others take time to fully accept. The key is persistence. Keep assuming your desired state until it becomes your dominant assumption about yourself. Don't set deadlines. Don't demand that your assumption manifest by a certain date. Simply persist in the feeling of already being what you want to be, and let the law work in its own perfect timing. The secret to successful assumption is learning to live from the end. Instead of living from your current circumstances and hoping to reach your goal, live from your goal and let your circumstances adjust to meet you there. If you want to be wealthy, think like a wealthy person thinks. Feel what a wealthy person feels. Act as a wealthy person would act, within reason and without going into debt. If you want to be loved, feel loved right now. Think like someone who is cherished thinks. Behave like someone who knows they are worthy of love. If you want to be successful, assume the feeling of success. Think like a successful person thinks. Feel what success feels like in your body. This isn't pretending. This is assuming. This is recognizing that the person you want to be already exists within you, waiting to be assumed. Pay attention to your inner conversation, the constant stream of thoughts running through your mind. What are you assuming about yourself in your thoughts? What story are you telling yourself about who you are and what's possible for you? Your inner conversation is creating your outer experience. If your inner conversation is full of lack, limitation, and impossibility, that's what you'll experience. If your inner conversation assumes abundance, possibility, and success, that's what you'll manifest. Change your inner conversation, and you change your life. Instead of thinking, I hope this works, think, I know this is already done. Instead of thinking, maybe I can be successful, think, I am successful. Instead of thinking, I wish I could be healthy, think, I am perfectly healthy. There's another crucial element that will accelerate your transformation: gratitude. But I'm not talking about being grateful for what you hope to receive. I'm talking about being grateful for what you assume you already have. When you assume your desire is already fulfilled, gratitude becomes a natural response. How do you feel when someone gives you exactly what you want? You feel grateful. This is the gratitude you should feel for your assumption. Every night before sleep, feel grateful for the fulfillment of your desires. Thank the universe, thank God, thank life itself, for already giving you everything you've assumed to be yours. This gratitude is not a technique. It's a natural response to the recognition that your desires are already fulfilled in consciousness. And now let me share the final secret, the one that will set you free forever. You are not trying to get anything. You are not trying to become anyone. You are simply recognizing what is already true in the infinite realm of consciousness. Every desire you have is already fulfilled somewhere in consciousness. Every person you want to be already exists. Every experience you want to have is already available. Your only job is to assume the state of consciousness where these things are already true. This is not work. This is recognition. This is not effort. This is acceptance. This is not becoming. This is being. So here is my challenge to you. Choose one desire, one goal, one aspect of yourself you want to transform. Tonight, before you sleep, assume the feeling of already being that person. Don't hope for it. Don't work for it. Don't pray for it. Assume it. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Feel the satisfaction of having that experience. Feel the joy of living that reality. And then tomorrow, live from that assumption. Think like that person thinks. Feel like that person feels. Act like that person acts. Persist in this assumption, no matter what your senses tell you. Your transformation is not a future event. It's a present reality waiting to be assumed. Remember, you are not limited by your past, your circumstances, or your conditions. You are not a victim of anything or anyone. You are the operant power of your world, the author of your experience, the creator of your reality. The person you want to be is not someone you will become. It's who you already are. Assume it, feel it, live it, be it, and watch as your entire world transforms to reflect this new assumption. The power is within you. The time is now. Your new life is waiting for you to assume it. Now go forth and create the life you were born to live. Remember, assumption is the foundation of all manifestation. What you assume to be true about yourself and your world becomes your reality. Choose your assumptions wisely, for they are the building blocks of your destiny.